you're drinking some water right now. I'm happy to see it because you gotta drink a lot of water. I was not a big water drinker. I was not one of these millennials that constantly had a fucking water bottle and said to their friends, come on, be sure to hydrate. I was like, You know what, nerd? Why don't you fucking sharpen your pencil too, dork?
Welcome to Backtracking, the show where two old friends take a second listen to influential bands' catalogs, track by track. I am J. William Hall.
And I'm Dan Fiden. We are taking this journey together. J. William, me, and you, the listener. Providing context, both personal and historical, on legendary bands. For this season, we have selected none other than American Music Club and the singer-songwriter Mark Eitzel. J. William, I can't even believe that we're back here yet again. Frankly, I can't believe we're not finished with this fucking season. I mean, this season is becoming epic.
It's surprisingly in-depth. I would be surprised if another podcast at some point really wanted to go tread the same ground. I think we are treading new ground, and we are going to be the only ones to go. We're like the astronauts that went to the moon, right? Back in the 70s, Yeah. But suppose like only one group of astronauts made it, and then they canceled the Apollo program after that. That's what we're talking about here. We are the first astronauts to walk on the moon. Nobody will follow.
Yeah. Yeah. I think of it almost like, you go to Costco and you can buy a package of, like 3,000 frozen, chutney mint samosas, right?
Okay.
And so what we're doing is we have selected a fairly unpopular thing, American Music Club, and our samosas, our podcast, our insight, our historical knowledge, it is not the best you can get out there at American Music Club. Our conversation about the band, it may not be the best that you can find anywhere on the internet about American Music Club, but by God, there is more of it. It's just like these are not the best samosas. Most people don't even want samosas, but we are going to drown you in fucking samosas. And that's what we're doing here.
That's
right. Does that make sense to you? We are going to give you more of the thing that you probably don't want than you can possibly imagine, and that's how we'll win.
We are specialized. We are arguably over-specialized.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we don't
care
a damn.
That's
about
right.
That.
So, listen, J. William Hall, this week, of course, we're covering two Mark Eitzel live albums. We're going to try and jam them both in together. The first of those is Live Acoustic 2005 to 2007, self-released Eitzel album. And then we're also going to cover Copenhagen 2009, another self-released Eitzel solo album. We're going to do them in whatever order we decide is the best order. We'll figure that out when we get into it. And we're just going to we're not going to track by track the live albums because we talked about a lot of these songs on the original studio album. We're going to kind of take this one a little bit like we took Songs I Love Live, or like, Roth and I handled the many Rush live albums that we covered over the course of season one. But before we get to that, J. William Hall, I know that you wait for housekeeping. We've got to do some, and I'm going to tell you why. We've got some emails. Now, a new superfan has reared his head. His name? Yeah. It's a new one. Another one. So, Judge Ken, all the other guys that are in line for the superfan.
Have a seat. There's a new kid in town.
I'm just saying, make room around the table, the round table of our valiant knights. Lancelot, move over. We got, I don't know, a single other knight other than Lancelot. But Gawain, Sir Gawain, isn't Gawain? That was one, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, Sir Gawain.
Probably. Yeah, it seems, So we got another one at the table. His name is Paul. I'm going to call him Paul69 because his email address is his first initial, last name, 69. Could be because he was born in 1969. I like to think that it's because he's a saucy son of a bitch. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to get into it with Paul. Paul sent us not one, but 2 emails since he started listening to the podcast just a couple of weeks ago. He discovered it. Gave us a little background on how he found the podcast and things like that. But he's from London. So I am noticing high density of Eitzel fandom in London. We knew this was the case from, the Sean Body book and
right.
various other things, but he's definitely
jolly good.
Out.
Jolly good, I say.
Yep. So he found AMC because he had fallen in love with Melody Maker back in the late 80s. And someone from Melody Maker had recommended AMC. So he got into it and loved it. He claims, I am not gonna question him, but he claims he has seen him nearly every year 2 or 3 times since. So he thinks he's seen him probably 60 times or so.
Wow.
Over the course of his fandom. So I think that, would qualify him as a real super fan. He's seen him all over the UK, elsewhere in Europe, and he has even seen them a few times in San Francisco, he says. But mostly London. And he loves him, he loves Eitzel's performance style. However, the single thing that I think proves him out as the biggest super fan of Eitzel that I have heard of is that he gave his son the middle name Eitzel.
Wow.
So his son, he doesn't tell me what the rest of the name is, but his son is blank Eitzel, and then his surname, which I'm not going to share because I don't want people out there Facebook stalking this guy because he's clearly so cool.
Right. It's not his fault that he was born with the middle name Eitzel. Leave him alone, ladies.
Well, yeah. So Eitzel, last name, amazing. He said he wanted to name the kid. He wanted his first name to be Eitzel, but his wife would have killed him, he said. So the middle name is Eitzel, which I think is pretty amazing. It isn't all flowers, though, in this email. I got to tell you, he had some issues. And I believe he had issues. He had issues with me, I think. He had issues with me in this one.
Hey,
so you,
don't we all?
You like him.
Hey, Paul.
You know what?
Don't we all have issues with Dan?
Listen, of course you're going to align yourself with P blank 69. Paul 69, you two leches over there. All right, so here's the specific issue. He had listened to the Songs of Love Live episode. Okay. And he said, I'm sorry to say, you're wrong. Chanel No. 5 is the best song on that album, he says, which I believe you said as well. He said, I can go back and look at the notes, but I think you may have said that as well.
That's right.
I did not. He said it is one of the best vocals Eitzel has ever laid down. And it's the best indicator of how he can be. His modulation, I'm quoting him here, modulation of power and volume, baritone lovely, but with a gnarly edge. I'm surprised you, and he said he can't remember which of us, I think it was me, prefer the AMC version.
Oh, well, that's definitely you, yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason it's on an unheralded B-side. It's awful, he says, and mangles the vocals, which is all over the shop. Now, listen, I am not going to question. I actually like it. I like he's mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
I like that. But I've got to say, I am going to... he articulates this so well and so strongly. I am going to go back and do a side-by-side on these two versions. Yeah. But I will say it's entirely possible the vocals are better on Songs of Love Live. But my love for the full band version is really the pedal steel.
Yeah. It's the full instrumentation. Like, to
That's
me,
right.
they're two separate. Like, I don't know that I would be like one's better than the other. Like, to me, they're two separate things that they shine on their own individually, in my opinion.
Listen, I think Songs of Love Live is a very strong collection across the board. It's a very, very strong collection that captures Eitzel at a very interesting time in the band's career, his career. And it is chock-a-block with great songwriting. So I think it is an absolutely essential album to own. I think the Chanel No. 5 version on it is certainly good. I think it's, one of my favorite Eitzel compositions. But I really do agree with you. I think that Eitzel's performance, and again, I'll have to go back and side-by-side compare, may not be as strong vocally as Songs of Love Live, but I do think that the rest of the band brings so much to that full band version, and it really captures a kind of Everclear era slowcore kind of
the mood. It's got that mood.
Totally. That languid, lonely, little bit eerie, definitely beautiful. It really captures that kind of vibe from AMC, and that's what I like it. So, but I think this is well articulated by Paul.
And I think it's also timely because of the episode that we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about two Eitzel solo live albums. So these are essentially like the successors, or if you think of his live solo albums as being like a collection or whatever, like we're talking about a trilogy at this point, right?
Yeah.
So, but we're covering the second and third chapters of the trilogy, Songs of Love Live being the first.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to get into it. But we do, listen, we're not done with Paul. Paul followed up his email a couple of days later with another email because he's binging the pod. You got to love him for binging the pod. So after listening to the album or to the episode on Mercury, he reached out again. And I've got news you may not like as well this time, Jay William.
Uh-oh.
He said, I wanted to write in about the Mercury episode, and specifically your reading of the Johnny Mathis song. Okay, Johnny Mathis feat.
Yes.
New paragraph, single sentence paragraph. It is absolutely on the money and superbly articulated. I know he's talking about me because I really am very articulate. No, because because that was my favorite song on the album. I remember really kind of going into this, and he said something that I think is completely true, and I agree with as well. He said, it's a beautiful structure, very confessional. It's a very interesting, beautiful metaphor. But he says he's basically bad-mouthing his own writing, as I had said in that episode. But he's doing that within the context of this song that is in and of itself a masterpiece. He says, not sure if it's a humble brag or he really doesn't realize how good he is. And I think that kind of is this, like, that really does get to the tension that exists, certainly in that song, but I think in a number of other Eitzel songs as well, and one of the things that I like about Johnny Mathis feat. So anyway, Paul, thank you for writing in. Very thought-provoking perspectives that you've shared. I appreciate them. I'm going to do some re-listening, some backtracking on my own after that. So hope you keep listening, Paul 69. All right.
Thanks, Paul 69.
Yeah, I was sitting there wondering, is he gonna fucking thank Paul, or is he just gonna fucking, All right, so he wants to dig in.
What?
It's all soaking in for him. So, Jay William, we got to get into these albums, these live albums. Which should we cover first?
I am going to propose that we cover 2005 to 2007 first, since it's chronologically prior.
First. Okay, great. Let's do it. So, the
Mark
album
Eitzel
is live solo acoustic 2005 to 2007. This was recorded over the course of a number of gigs that were in Brighton, which is in England, coastal, beautiful. Never been, on what I understand, a very beautiful coastal town in southern
Seaside
England.
town, yes.
Have you been? You've probably been there.
I've never been. I've heard good things.
Okay,
I've heard good things.
Okay. Well, so Brighton, London, and then in New York City. So
no, I don't think it's New York City. I think it's York, England. I think these are all recorded in England.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
So please defend yourself. Oh,
well,
York.
Because
I see. You're
the
right.
listing.
You're right.
Yeah.
I just misread
think it's not New York. It's York, England.
Okay. It's Old York. Old York. Well,
the York Fibbers. The York Fibbers is what they call the venue.
Okay, so I've already gotten something wrong. It was recorded in Brighton, London, and York, over the course of a few gigs held across 2005 to 2007.
Right.
The cover art we've got to cover. We're going to cover that really quickly.
Yeah.
What
cover the
struck
cover.
you about this cover? Very interesting cover.
Yeah, this is kind of a crazy photo. It shows sort of like a three flat kind of buildings. One of them's missing in the middle, and the entire space is filled up to the third floor. It looks like with just like chairs, random wooden chairs, like a giant pile of them. It's a really kind of funny photo. And the thing I'm now realizing is that I meant to Google, because there's a sign down at the bottom of the photo with some words on it in some other language, and I was going to see if I could figure out where this was, but it's not England. It's not the U.S. Somewhere in Europe.
It is. So unless I'm mistaken, now I didn't Google it, but unless I'm mistaken, the sign, the language that sign is in is Turkish. So I'm fairly certain that this photo was taken somewhere in Turkey.
Okay.
I did do a search because I feel as though I've seen this photo before outside of the context of this album, but I looked around and I couldn't seem to find it. So it's possible, Eitzel took this one as well. It's a very interesting photo, a very strange scene. And I kind of took this, I interpreted this as like, here is a grab bag of performances stuffed into this album in the same way that this is a grab bag of chairs stuffed into this vacant lot, kind of.
Yeah, I think that if there was any meaning behind it, I think that would be a fair interpretation.
Good.
But otherwise, it's just kind of a cool, interesting photo.
Yeah. Okay, so we're not going to be going through this one track by track, but so we're just going to have a kind of a general conversation. I'm going to, though, before we get into that, just go through the track listing so everyone knows, if you haven't heard this album yet, what is on it. And I'm going to give you, the track durations as well. So the album opens with Jenny, 3:49, then moves into Last Harbor, 4 minutes and 8 seconds. Then One Step Ahead, 4:04, Marine Parade intro. So this is some banter, 28 seconds. Then I Live in This Place, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Western Sky, 4:27. Who Are You? 4:05. Outside
Wrong.
This Bar.
Who you are?
Who you are. I have it written correctly. I just read it incorrectly. But thank you for buzzing in on that.
I'm always here to correct.
Yeah. Outside This Bar, 3:19. Firefly, 3:33. All the Lost Souls, Welcome You to San Francisco, 3:31. I Know That's Not Really You, 3:45. Heaven in Your Arms, 3:45. Myopic Books, 3:48. And finally, what is listed as a bonus track, The Stars,
you missed one.
Oh, I did?
No, you missed one. Yeah, after Myopic Books, Johnny Mathis's Feet.
Oh, that's right. How could I forget
then
that?
The Stars.
How could I forget that? Yes, You're right. Okay, so Johnny Mathis Feet, how long does that one go?
I have it as 4 minutes, 21 seconds.
Okay. So, having gone through all of that, Jay William, what was your kind of thought on this collection?
It's an interesting selection of tracks from across his career. The AMC stuff, of course, there's a Heapin' Helpin' off of California, which I think somehow to me it seems like California is possibly the favorite of the early era albums from in the fan base. Like it feels like California has a certain mystique or weight to it, and so I think there's 3 or 4 songs off of that. I was cursing you as I listened to it. Yes, I was cursing you, Dan, because we got to several tracks on this where I was like, ooh, what is this song? I've never heard this song before. Yeah. And it was like, well, the reason is because it's from the final AMC album, The Golden Age. This is a solo version. I haven't backtracked The Golden Age because you, sir, made us switch up the chronology so that we would do that at the end of the season. That's fine. But now you've spoiled the surprise because I've now heard previews of some of the songs that are going to be on The Golden Age.
Well, you know what, Jay William? I reject that. I reject that castigation, and I'm gonna explain to you why.
Okay.
Songs of Love Live. I know we've moved away from the chronology here at the end of the season, but the same problem exists with Songs of Love Live, right? There's a number of songs that appear on that collection that don't show up as studio tracks until after. I'm thinking of What Godzilla Said to God, for example.
This is true.
Yeah. So what do you have to say for yourself now, Hotshot?
All I'm going to say is that you should be drawn and quartered. I'm not going to spell out all of the charges.
But let's go through this. So the tracks that are from the Golden Age, I had to look this up as well because obviously I have the same problem. One Step Ahead is off of the Golden Age. All the Lost Souls, Welcome Me to San Francisco is off the Golden Age. And I know that's not really you.
And
is off the
Who
Golden
You
Age.
Are. Who You Are. Also.
Okay, Who You Are is also off the Golden Age.
And The Stars. the
Stars. Okay, The Stars is off the Golden Age now.
So this is kind of like a preview. It's like he's workshopping the material that wound up on the Golden Age. Some here.
But I have a question. What about Heaven in Your Arms? That is a song I didn't recognize and I could not find from the catalog. I'm just curious. Is that an Eitzel composition that just never showed up anyplace else?
I had the same question. I have to assume that's the case because I couldn't find it anywhere else either.
When I read the track listing, I kind of hoped it was going to be Heaven in Your Hands. Mm-hmm. Right? And, because from time to time there has been kind of slight tweaks to song titles that he's done from one album to the next. But it wasn't that. It's a completely different song.
Yeah, completely different song. And I think, when putting together a collection like this. So first of all, this collection, this album wasn't released as far as I can tell until Eitzel put it out on his own on his Bandcamp back in like 2021. So, maybe some of these songs were available on bootlegs or whatever prior to that. But, so here he is 15 years, after this period, and he's sort of compiling, his choice of what stuff he wants to put on here. So, because it's divided between 3 different gigs, I just think it's interesting to kind of think about like what song choices he made in kind of putting this together. I think that one of the unique, maybe not unique, but one of the striking things about Eitzel is, especially when he's doing solo performances of songs that you only know as a full band thing or whatever, like they can be quite different, than the way the band recorded it or even the style. And there's a few songs on this album that he also did versions of on Songs of Love Live. And it's interesting that he changes lyrics. He's always kind of free-forming the melody, off in different places. And I think some of the older songs on this collection, you can really hear his comfort level in taking them just to unseen places, because he's probably done them so many times that it's easier for him to do it that way. So I will be interested when we backtrack Golden Age, because I've gotten a glimpse of what the songs are at this stage, but I can tell already there's going to be some major differences with the versions on the AMC album, because even if you look up the lyrics, the ones on Golden Age are sometimes significantly different than what he's singing on those same songs in this collection. So, I suspect that the differences are enough to justify these different versions being put out.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up the Songs of Love Live kind of parallel. One of my favorite things about this collection, honestly, is the fact that there are so many songs that appear both on Songs of Love Live and on this, and that the recording approach and the kind of instrumentation is so similar, right? Solo acoustic, pretty straightforward, ambient recording. And so you get this opportunity to hear Eitzel, 20, 30 years apart, something like, no, I guess it 2005, so that would have been
15
years apart. But as you said, the kind of level of comfort that he has with the songs is obviously very, very different. I would say that what struck me about like the comparison between these two live recordings is he's clearly much more confident, and I would argue a much more capable vocal performer. Just purely purely singer. I think he's just I don't want to say a better singer. I think he's just a more confident singer, which is really interesting to hear. He's also very clearly a much better guitarist, which I think is interesting to hear. More kind of comfortable guitarist, I guess I would say. What I miss though from the Songs of Love live performances is there is not any of the super quiet, whispered, hesitant, intimate performance on this one, right? Like on the Songs of Love version of, Jenny, for example, or Last Harbor, certainly Western Sky, there are more of those moments where it's really Eitzel just kind of barely singing, whispering into the mic, and then when he hits those bigger moments, there's more of a contrast. On this one, I think he kind of goes from big to really big. But it tends to, at least in my opinion, that tends to work better on Johnny Mathis' feet, for example, that kind of a composition. Or like I Live in This Place, I think was a particularly strong performance on this one. But I have to be honest, like Western Sky, which is one of my favorite compositions on here, I didn't particularly like the way he did it. There's almost a groove to the song that you hear, especially in the first verse, that feels a little out of place.
I was like, whoa, like, cause he started and it's this like chugging, guitar part, and it sounded like Billy Bragg's, I was 22 years when I wrote this song, I'm 20, that one, trying to say, and, like, it had this tung, 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 and I was just kind of like, is he going to keep that up the whole time? And he kind of did, it was like, he tried to do something different with it. I mean, he's probably played the song 5,000 times.
That's right.
Just needs to change it up and do different things with it. So, I mean, I would agree with you. I probably wouldn't pick this one versus the one on Songs of Love, but I respect the, just keeping it interesting for himself. And I agree with you that I think there's a certain shyness, that's apparent on Songs of Love that is not it's not as apparent here. You know, like he seems much more comfortable on stage.
Yeah.
You know, and especially, you know, we start talking about the Copenhagen one too. Like,
yeah,
you know, he's completely at ease, you know,
yeah,
talking with the audience, kind of like
yeah.
going back and forth and all of that sort of thing, which I don't think you would have heard quite the extent, you know, like on Songs of Love Live, he seemed more shy, more nervous, maybe. I don't know, you know.
Yeah,
but yeah, some you know, real differences, in how he performs or approaches kind of the same songs here, you know, versus back then.
It does. All right, so I'm going to make a comparison that I'm pretty certain no one has ever made before. But I'm all about breaking ground. J. William Hall, I'm all about breaking ground.
That's right.
So there is one, I think, school of thought that you've just articulated, which is, listen, when people come, you know, they want to hear, they want you to play the hits, or at least to a certain extent, they want you to play the hits. And after somebody does that for 10, 20, 30 years, obviously it's going to get a little bit boring for them to play it the same way every time, right? Mm-hmm. And it isn't at all uncommon to hear musicians evolve how they play the hits over time, right? That I think is, you hear that all the time.
Yeah.
Eitzel has definitely done that a little bit on this album, more in some songs than others. There is another school of thought that I think, I'm not going to be able to quote him here, but I've heard articulated multiple times by none other than American treasure Jimmy Buffett. Okay?
James Buffett.
R.I.P. Jimmy Buffett. So he basically says, listen, you know, what he always said is like, listen, I wrote goofy songs, you know, never thought that I'd become anything, never thought I'd be able to do this. And if people after 20 years, 30 years, however, they're still willing to pay money to come see me, I'm going to play the songs that they want to hear. That's my job. My job is to show up and play Margaritaville every time, you know? And I understand that as well, right? But clearly Eitzel is, you know, he's playing the hits, but he's not playing them in exactly the same way. And he's clearly doing some things that are, you know, trying to keep it interesting for him. So what I'm hearing from you is you generally like to hear that evolution.
I mean, probably not for every artist, you know, like here's an example.
Okay.
A few years back, my wife and I went to see, coming to the basketball arena at Ohio State. It was Tears for Fears opening up for Hall & Oates.
Wow.
Yeah, quite a double bill.
Yeah,
and
great double bill.
The thing that was interesting is Tears for Fears came out and they did faithful renditions of all of the big hits from their catalog, and you know, we're in heaven and we're singing along and it sounds awesome and they played great. Yeah. Hall & Oates comes out and they seem like, we're going to do some extended blues jam solos, you know, on like every song, you know, basically from the catalog, and rearrange things, and you know, and it was like, boo, you know. I was like, no, like I didn't enjoy it at all, because you know, they took the familiar, they took the musical ear candy, and they, you know, turned it into vegetables that you didn't want to listen to. And so I can see it both ways. I think it depends on the performer, but like, you know, I think at this point Eitzel has established that like he's not going to be your wind-up doll who you know, expect to walk out there and perform it like the same way every time, and that's just not who he is as an artist or performer. So I would expect no less, you know, like he might try something that you don't think, you know, I didn't really care for that version versus this other one, but I think, like, you know, you gotta let the man cook, as they say. Let him cook.
Well, Yeah, I think it is interesting. I'm going to have to compare this to the Copenhagen record. But because those are two separate records that were released pretty closely, and because the style of performance and the songs selected are so different on these two records, I don't want to get into Copenhagen yet, but like very, very different album.
Right.
I thought this was like, he kind of was acknowledging like, okay, this is the Songs of Love Live style of record that I know the fan base kind of wants from me. And then Copenhagen is a little bit more of the cabaret stuff that he's been a bit more interested in, kind of post AMC, or post AMC version 1, maybe. That I like that he split them up that way. I will say that this one was most of kind of what I wanted, and that was really like an update of Songs of Love Live 20 years on. And mostly I liked these performances, especially, and I'm just going to go through, this isn't best and worst or anything, but I just want to hit on some of the things that I liked about this and then some of the things I didn't like about it before we move over to Copenhagen. So Last Harbor, I think his guitar work on that is just really, really nice. It struck me as being, again, an example of like real evolution in him as a performer, right? I felt like I Live in This Place, which is one of the newer songs, certainly off of more of a kind of obscure release, Klamath, right?
Yeah.
Really worked well in this setting. I was impressed.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about it on Copenhagen, but that's one of the ones that I thought was a standout on Copenhagen as well, and probably a song that I didn't, on Klamath, I think I liked it okay, but I didn't rate it as one of the. But we also learn more about the origin of the song on Copenhagen, so we'll get to that.
Yeah, but I like that one. Now, Western Sky, didn't like this version, wasn't into it. I think Firefly, of the kind of classics, right, that you were talking about, California era stuff, I think this performance is my favorite performance. And I have to say it's probably because I feel like it is the most kind of quote unquote true to the original version, or maybe the Songs of Love Live version. And one of the things that made me laugh, but I also really loved, if you remember from Songs of Love Live, he plays the bridge and he's trying to hit those harmonics, right? Mm-hmm. And something happens, but on Songs of Love Live, he's like, he laughs and he goes, I'm always fucking this part up, right? And he kind of limps through that bridge. In this one, the bridge starts and he plays it perfectly. He hits those harmonics, and I have to say, they sound beautiful, right? They really, really, and I'm like literally thinking about the Songs of Love Live version, and I'm like rooting for him to get through it perfectly because it's so pretty. And then he does actually on that last harmonic kind of whiff a little bit, and he laughs. And I thought that was funny to keep in this release, because it's such an obvious parallel to Songs of Love Live.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the cool things about all three of these live albums is that you definitely feel like you are in the room. Like,
yeah, totally.
Warts and all, between song banter. And I don't know how heavily edited, because this one was compiled from 3 different performances, and it plays like it's a single performance, but I don't know that it is. But you definitely get the feel, like you hear the room, you hear the crowd in the room. It's just him, so, he makes some mistakes and flubs here and there. The melody goes a little wild at times. He has some guitar tuning problems in on this album. Like some of the later songs, I was kind of like, whoa, like, and
outside this bar, it feels like the guitar is in the wrong tuning maybe for the entire set. Did you catch that? Outside this bar was the one that really struck me as like, ooh, something's not right here.
I might have caught it a song or two later, but I mean, like, I've been in many bands, and I'm always the guy that people were like, tune your B string. And I'm like, it is tuned. And they're like, can't you hear that? It's not right, and I'm like, oh, I can't hear it. And so for me to be able to hear that this guitar is out of tune, I'm like, okay, it must have been pretty bad. But, the thing is that, he has all these complicated tunings and stuff. And so he's probably having to kind of quickly, tweak things in between songs while he's talking with the audience. And, I think like he just missed a little bit on some of them, but hey, he plowed forward. He got through it.
Yeah. Now, one of the maybe the last one I wanted to call out, I thought The Stars was, if not the best song on the album, one of the best songs on the album. It benefits from there's some background vocals on it, and that it's the only song on the record that has any other musicians on it. But the background vocals are just beautiful, and the composition is beautiful. And again, another reason to look forward to the Golden Age. It's a great song.
Yeah, I was really struck by that one too. I did go so far as to think about my best and worst, and that was my pick for the best on the album. I think it closes in a really stunning kind of way with that performance, and especially not having heard the later studio version. So really good. And those vocals, it reminded me of what he did on Klamath. He used those vocal harmonies in the background just to kind of lay a bed, and so it was super effective here. Super effective.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know what? I went so far as to think a little bit about best and worst as well. And that would definitely be a contender for the best on the album for me. Very, very strong. So, I will say that I think that this album is a necessary collection to own if you're an AMC and Eitzel fan. I would love to see an extended version of this and Songs of Love Live, like a double album release of this, where it's like Songs of Love Live and then more Songs of Love Live or Songs of Hate Live or something. You know what I mean? And just because you get this parody of similar performance 15, 20 years later, I just really like that. I don't know why I was geeking out on that so much, but I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think it's cool to hear the evolution of the performer.
Yeah. All right, so should we move on to Copenhagen 2009 here and dig into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so this one, it was recorded on Halloween 2009 in, of course, Copenhagen. Now, J. William Hall, have you ever been to Copenhagen?
I have not had the pleasure of visiting Copenhagen, nor its country, Denmark.
Yeah, Denmark. Neither have I. I've heard nothing but good things. The album cover purports to be a lovely photo, perhaps out the hotel window of the city itself.
I assume that's Copenhagen. That would be pretty confusing if you called
it was Cleveland.
Album. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So we're gonna assume that. It's not a. I frankly, it's not as. It isn't as evocative a cover as the live solo 2005 record that we just talked about. But it's fitting. I don't dislike it. I think it's a serviceable kind of utilitarian cover.
I like it. I like the framing.
So
I like the colors.
Now, before I get into, I've got a whole bunch of kind of overall stuff. I'm going to go through the track listing again, then we can dive in. Okay, so the track listing for this one, I'm sure I'll make a mistake, and I have no doubt you'll buzz in.
I'm ready to pounce. I'm sitting here ready to pounce.
You're just staring, just waiting. Not supporting, you're just waiting.
Come on, bring it on.
All right. I left my heart in San Francisco, 5 minutes and 1 second. Mission Rock Resort, 6:31. Why Won't You Stay, 5:51. I Live in This Place, 4:27. Myopic Book, 655. The Blood on My Hands, 633. Windows on the World, 711. Last Harbor, 851. We're getting into Rush territory here. Patriot's Heart, 815. The Thorn in My Side Is Gone, 436. No Easy Way Down, 855. And Night Watchman, 603. So
now, keep in mind, though, that a lot of these track lengths are due to very extended banter sessions between songs.
Yeah, and so I wanted to bring that up. But the thing that I want to bring up, I think my biggest complaint about both of these records is the track breaks are totally fucked up.
I agree with you. I know what you're going to say.
And I don't understand how it happens. Basically, on this one in particular, but it happens again on the other one. It happens also on the other one. The banter that is related to song 2 appears at the end of the song 1 track. So what you want is the banter related to Mission Rock Resort to appear either as a separate short track before Mission Rock Resort or as part of Mission Rock Resort. And most of the time here, it appears at the end of the preceding song.
You know, and it wouldn't be that bad, except that, particularly on this album, the banter is so extensive, and it does such good work, in my opinion, of sort of setting the stage for the song that you're about to hear. And you listen to it in a totally different way when you've just heard the performer explain what this song is about, which Eitzel does for a bunch of the songs on this. And it made me hear the songs in a different way. And so I agree with you that banter has to be part of the same track as the song that you're talking about. If there's any way to take this version down, re-break up the tracks, upload it again.
Listen, send us the audio files for both of these, because on the live acoustic one, there's actually at least one example of the track starting after the music starts. So like the first bar maybe of the guitar for whatever it is, right? Why Won't You Stay or something appears on the track before it. So it's really broken. I don't know how this happens. Jay, William, and I are volunteering our services to recut all of this so that the tracks actually make sense.
It's a worthy cause.
For free. Listen, we're just going to do it for free because it needs to be done. That's the kind of people we are. We're just going to get in the game. All right, so that is the biggest issue with this. I'm glad to know that you agree. Now,
I noted and I agree.
Yeah, terrible. It really is. That's one of those things that I was kind of like, it isn't like that happened in the recording itself, you know? This is just somebody just kind of chopped this up in a sloppy way. I don't know who that somebody was. Could have been Mr. Eitzel. But listen, just measure twice, cut once, as Bob Vila used to say, and Norm Abram.
Lest you think that we're just going to say glowing positive things throughout this season.
No, that's an issue. So the overall tone of this recording is extremely cabaret.
Yes.
Which I think it struck me it kind of hit me funny because we're coming off of Brannan Street and Klamath and then also this other live album. And I think Brannan Street, Klamath, and then the other live album, the 2005 live album, just don't have that cabaret tone. Klamath and Brannan Street overall, they have a much more slowcore, much more intimate, much less dramatic feel. And so I this one is really like kind of like a 10 on the cabaret scale, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean this is sort of like a different, I don't know if you want to call it a different side or just a different style for Eitzel to be doing, especially in compared to Songs of Love and, Live 2005 to 7, where he's playing guitar and singing. This one, he's got Mark Capel, who's been playing with him on a whole bunch of albums at this point, who is on playing the keyboard, piano, and then Eitzel is just singing. And the thing that I came to realize once I started backtracking this album is that, there are videos, there's video of several of the performances of these actual performances of these songs. Somebody took video that night where he was recording this. And, so you see the room, not just hear it, but like you can see it. And it is very much like a cabaret, like, little stage up in the front of a room and, kind of
a red velvet
simple lighting
behind
and,
him.
Yeah, and you've got the piano guy kind of, tinkling away and the guy on the mic sort of, talking to the audience and stuff. And, you definitely get the sense of being there, for this performance. And but it's distinctly different sounding than the previous two live albums. I was worried. I'm going to be honest. When I realized that that's what this was going to be, because just, I don't know, like cabaret style performing or whatever, I just would say is not my cup of tea. Yeah. But I was blown away, frankly, by several songs, several renditions on this where, I thought Eitzel's singing was spectacular, and I thought that Capel's backing was really awesome. Like the way that he reinterpreted, especially some of the earlier AMC songs, and he had to kind of provide the entire, instrumentation orchestration for this thing, like behind Eitzel. And I thought that they pulled it off remarkably well. I expected to be a little bored by it, but I wasn't. So
so that's really interesting to hear. I have this exact same. I had the exact same initial impression. I too was concerned. I think he really sends a message with track 1 on this. The fact that he's covering "I Left My Heart in San Francisco," it is very clear the direction he's going with that. He continues that same tone with Mission Rock Resort. It is an extraordinarily cabaret version of that, what I think is one of the best songs off that first solo album, 60 Watt Silver Lining. But it really, unapologetically goes in that direction. My feeling was, what I like about the performance, I think it is a very confident and loose performance, which is like not something that is not a vibe you get all the time from, Eitzel and especially on these live records. And I like that vibe. It's an undeniably funny performance at times, which I also like. I like that there's a different side of it. The track on this album that I think this tone, I mean the original track, not there are a couple of covers on here, but the original track on here that I think this tone works best with, or is maybe taken to the nth degree, is "The Blood on My Hands," right? It is like very over the top.
Yeah, that's where Franz Nicolay gets called to the stage. I guess he's out in the audience, and he reprises his accordion part, and they have a big sing-along kind of thing to it. And it really is sort of got a sea shanty. And that is one of the videos that's out there on YouTube. Yep. You can watch the performance of that. And the thing about Eitzel's like kind of in rare form, I think, like in terms of the banter. He is making the audience so uncomfortable at various stages. Yeah. You can hear the nervous laughter like in the room. I think it's kind of hilarious.
It's interesting to listen to, but I have to say that I didn't love it, I think, in the same way that you did. I love the banter, and in particular, I really think this album, I think the thing I would endorse this album for more than anything else is just the background on the songs. because there's some stories in here that I hadn't ever heard before. From
totally.
him, and I kind of take it. I take it at face value that it's true, but for me, that was worth the price of admission. The performances and the awkwardness in a couple of places on here, the audience's awkwardness definitely comes through, but frankly, I felt awkward in a way that I didn't enjoy. You know what I mean? Like, and I can tell you kind of the two places, right? And I'm sure that it's the same ones that hit for you. There is a whole 9/11 kind of comedy bit that he does in and around Windows on the World.
Right.
That really did not land. At least for me, it didn't land.
I would agree.
And then there's the kind of vamp section at the end of Patriot's Heart, where he just improvises a bunch of kind of phrases about penises. That it isn't as though it's completely unrelated to the song. They do kind of in some way or another fit in within the kind of overall metaphor of that song. Yeah. But it kind of goes on too long, and it just, I don't know. I just kind of,
it does, like, you know, I mean, you know, I don't know that I'm going to say I liked it, but I think what I liked is that I don't know that they intended to release this as a live album. My guess is that they did not, that they were just recording performances and they happened to get this one and someone was like, you should release this, because this shows, it feels like a very full picture of the Mark Eitzel experience, you know, like the awkwardness at times or discomfort with some of what's coming out of his mouth, you know, like in between songs, but then he turns around and drops these unbelievable performances, like really moving performances. It's a really interesting combo, you know, like just as an experience, as an audience member, you know, I you know, you almost would have to compare it to, like, I don't know, some sort of stand-up comedian or something that, like, on the one hand is pushing some really edgy jokes that make you uncomfortable, but then on the other hand is dropping something that, you know, just kind of is stunning in how good it is. And, you know, and I feel like that is sort of the similar kind of vibe here, you know, and I don't really have a lot of, like, I mostly listen to bands, you know, like I don't listen to a lot of, like, solo artists who do a lot of performing solo or whatever, and I think that you know, it's got to be, you know, so difficult, you know, to be that good and that talented that you can captivate a room, you know. But I mean, we could hear it on Songs of Love Live, how Eitzel had that room in the palm of his hand.
I mean, he definitely does.
You can't not pay attention, you know, like, and so I think, like, some of, like, the bits and the different things that he's weaving through this album, the back and forth with Capel, you know, where he switches to that harpsichord at one point and is playing this classical harpsichord. You could tell it drives Eitzel nuts, and he's like, no, you know, and, like, they have some back and forth because they've probably, you know, I think this is probably later in their tour. They've been playing together, so they've developed some rapport, and it's become part of the stage show. Like, I don't know how you could ignore it, you know, and so I kind of feel like, just as an entertainment experience, you know, even the uncomfortable parts, I think, are all part of it, you know, like that's part of who Eitzel is as a performer. So I think it's kind of cool that, you know, they have an official release that captures that side of him, you know.
Yeah. So, all right. So what I want to hear from you, Jay William, is kind of across the tracks that are on this album, are there musical performance? I don't want to talk about the stories specifically, but are there musical performances, versions of any of these songs within this kind of setting that you felt like really stood out and worked well?
Yeah, there are, you know, more than a few, I would say. Okay. Starting with the first one that I made note of, where I was like, wow, this is a really kind of cool alternate version. Why Won't You Stay? Like, I think what Capel the way that he rearranges the AMC version into this version, combined with how Eitzel changes the melody and tweaks some words here and there and kind of rises and falls with the piano, I think that worked really well. Where's another one that I thought the version of Last Harbor on this one was really cool, like what Capel was doing on the piano, these kind of arpeggio sort of things. It you know, I thought it sort of made the song new in a way. You know, just heard it in a different way. Those are two that jump out at me, just swinging down through my notes. What about you?
Yeah, I will say that generally, musically, I didn't like what he did with the songs on this record. These are mostly versions of the kind of existing songs that I don't like. I think it's interesting that, you know, they're very different versions generally, and I do think it's interesting to hear, but I mostly didn't like them. Unfortunately, I mean,
now,
but like, I think that this style of performance worked very well for The Blood on My Hands. I think it worked well for I Live in This Place. I think it worked pretty well for Patriot's Heart, honestly. I had some issues with that little kind of improv section at the end. Mostly because I just think it kind of didn't land, or it went on a little bit too long. But I think overall the performance of that song is pretty good. And then I do think that the versions of I Left My Heart in San Francisco and No Easy Way Down are pretty good here, right? They fit very much within this style of performance. I did not like the Last Harbor version. I remember I actually have a note that I don't like that weird piano arpeggio. I appreciate they're going in a different direction, but I will say the song. And I'm gonna dovetail a little bit into the banter here. I think the song, the moment, the kind of banter plus performance track that probably would get my vote as the best on this record is The Thorn in My Side Is Gone. I love the story. It's both funny. It's incredibly intimate. It talks about a time in Eitzel's life in San Francisco that we've heard a bit about, because it kind of goes all the way back to his days working at Creative Leisure. But he says that he tells this kind of like, at least for me, like kind of stunning story, right? Like, and all I had was questions. Like, I just had so many questions.
Yeah.
And you know, if you haven't heard the track yet, you should definitely go listen to it. But he basically says, hey, you know, I worked at, you know, way back when I was in San Francisco, I worked at Creative Leisure. There was this guy named Bill who kind of worked with me, and he was gay, and he, I can't remember what they called him, but they had a name for him. And I guess this guy was kind of funny and very kind of like out, with, you know, his homosexuality and his kind of like sexual activity with Eitzel before Eitzel was out. Right. And Eitzel actually talks about the dynamic of Bill and Eitzel kind of being closeted at this point, which again is just so interesting because it isn't really much of, you don't get a lot of that from him directly.
Yeah,
but then
I can't even imagine what we thought the song was about. You know,
I know, like, I totally wanted to, but then it goes into this amazing, it like takes this amazing turn, terrible and sad turn, where Eitzel's like, yeah, when Bill got AIDS, and I can't remember what he called it, but like a suicide party. It basically sounds like the guy committed suicide and invited friends over to be around him when he did it because he had AIDS prior to there being any treatment for AIDS. And just all of that drops in this like one sentence, and I'm just like, holy shit, like, amazing. And then he's like, Eitzel like didn't go, and he wanted to write a song, and Bill said Eitzel's song sucked, but the song in question is The Thorn in My Side Is Gone, and he just says, yeah, this is about Bill. And then he goes into this, what has always been and is on this record, a really, really beautiful song.
A sort of similarly impactful way that he the very last song on the disc, Night Watchman. So at this point,
Yeah.
this is into the encore. I think this is the final song of the night. But before he goes to play it, he says, like, you know, oh, we're going to do the most upbeat thing in the catalog that we know how to do. And then he's like, you know, this is a song about my mom dying, and like proceeds to tell the whole backstory of this song, which I was kind of like, whoa, because I had never heard it laid out like that plainly either. I don't think we knew, you know, when we backtracked Engine that what the song was about, and we're speculating everywhere. But you can just hear the audience kind of like, there's sort of like a nervous like laugh, but then it's kind of like, whoa, like. And he's saying things like, you know, after you hear this tonight, you're going to go home and have the best sex of your life. You know, and everybody's just like, no one knows how to take those two trains of information. And, you know, but then I think they deliver a jaw-droppingly good version of Night Watchman. Now, let me ask you this, because, you know, probably one of the challenges for you listening to this, I'm guessing, is that you probably don't listen to a lot of like piano-led music. I don't.
Well, I wouldn't say that I don't listen to it. That's not like a genre that I focus on, but I will say, like, listen, I don't want to give anything away, but doing a lot of thinking about season 3 right now. Some of my, you know, some of the albums I come back to again and again. Ben Folds, first record. Tori Amos, big fan of kind of mid-era Tori Amos. Fiona Apple I revisited last week. Her second record I think is terrific. You know that I'm a fan of Rufus Wainwright. I love me some Billy Joel. I love me some Elton John. So, you know, I don't want to say that I'm like a piano man.
Right.
But
sounds like you're more of a piano man than I am. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love all that stuff. You know, and I could mix it up with, you know, big fans of that stuff, and I think I could hold my own. I actually do like it. Yeah, so put that in your pipe and smoke it, Jay William.
Well, I have nothing else to say then.
No, but I will say that this mode of Eitzel, I think, is interesting, but it hasn't ever been my favorite, right? I think it probably, for me, worked as well as it was ever going to work on 60 Watt. That's kind of as far as you know, he went further than that, and I didn't go with him, if that makes sense. There are some moments on 60 Watt that I really like, but this is probably overall a little too far for me. My opinion on this album, the Copenhagen album, is if you are a super fan, this is a must listen primarily for the banter. I think the banter, the background on the songwriting that is revealed here is the best thing on this album without a doubt. 'Cause it seems so honest. May not be, but it seems very honest. And it's so revealing, you know, it's just worth it.
I disagree with you insofar as I think that musically this album is also interesting and worthy and different than anything else that he put out. You know, your mileage may vary with how much you like that cabaret kind of setting, but I was impressed with the versions that him and Capel put together for this show. The banter is essential, you know, to understanding and appreciating, I think, you know, listening to the songs in a different way. But they've got, so whoever's doing it, you got to recut these tracks. You've got to match the banter. You got to have it on the same track as the song. I think that will make the album as a whole even stronger.
Yeah, no, completely agree. That is the big fail here. So if Eitzel and affiliates are out here hearing this, please do it. I'm certain there's a way to do it. It's a digital-only release. There's got to be a way to update these tracks. As I said, I am happy. I'm sure Jay William is happy to
I'd be thrilled
to cut those up and handle that for you. We have the technology, so please let us know. So, Jay William, if you can believe it, that's it. We're done. We just sailed through 2 live albums.
We went into beast mode, and we said we will cover all of this material in one episode.
Yeah, and we did it. And you know what? I feel like we've accomplished something. However, next week we got more work to do. We have more work to do. We need to get into. That's right. Don't Be a Stranger. We are finally going to tackle Don't Be a Stranger. That puts us.
Yeah, what do we got? 5 more? Something like that?
No, but Don't Be a Stranger we got to cover. Then we've got to cover Hey Mr. Ferryman.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we got to cover the Golden Age.
Okay.
And that's it. Now, there's some other stuff floating around there. There's Glory, which is kind of like a B-sides collection. There is... I'm certain there's some AMC live stuff late. But right now, I think
there's odds and sods.
Must cover. We've got 3 more full-length studio albums to cover. That's it. Okay. Then we're done.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to this next one.
Week, we're going to be getting into Don't Be a Stranger. Jay William, until then, there's only one thing that you need to do, and that is you need to fix your fucking internet. No. Yeah. Until next week, there's only one thing you need to do, Jay William. And you know what it is?
No.
Okay, it is. You need to smash the like button. Just go ahead and smash it. You need to share.
Look, I'm doing it right now. Hear that?
You're smashing it?
That's me smashing that like button. Bam, 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 bam.
Send it to friends and neighbors. Just send it to them.
Hey, Christmas is coming up. You know?
Just say, hey, listen, money's tight this year, but I'm giving you something that you're gonna appreciate more than, something that I bought at Target. Right. It is the Backtracking Podcast, Season 2. Listen up.
Get the box set. It's worth it for the extras.
That's right. So you're going to do that. You're going to contact us. You're going to contact us through Instagram at Backtracking Rocks, Twitter at Backtracking Rocks, Reddit, Backtracking Rocks, or the AMC subreddit. Email, of course, is backtrackingrocksrox@gmail.com. And finally, we have a YouTube channel. If you're one of these millennials, now I just recently, Jay William, did a little sidetrack of my own, met with the data team and took a look at the demographics of the audience.
Okay.
You want to know what's remarkable? Of the Gen Xers, which is really our sweet spot, right? 45 up to
the
about
coolest
60.
generation.
That's right. We are 55% female listeners. You want to know why? Yeah.
It's my voice, isn't it?
Is it? Yeah, it could be. It's a very, you know what? It's a sexy kind of I can imagine this Jay William Hall.
Ooh la la.
Whispering sweet nothings.
American Music Club, I'll tell you.
Yeah. You always have had that kind of honeyed, rich voice. My voice is a little more annoying.
Right. Yours cuts through, it cuts
does.
through, and that's the one that, sticks with people.
I'm more of a, I might be doing a Menards commercial. You know what I mean? That kind of a voice. Like, we've got sawhorses, half off. Come on to Menards. Save big money at Menards.
Yeah, mine is more like when I'm speaking in a meeting at work and I try to say something, people immediately start talking over top of me because they don't realize that I'm talking because I blend in with the background.
Yeah. You know what I used to do when that happens? Somebody talks over me in a meeting. I just smack their fucking mouth. I just say, bam.
It's a good thing you're retired now, because if you do that these days, you're talking about a lawsuit.
All right, so we are going to be back next week. Don't. What are we doing? Don't be a stranger.
Don't be a stranger. Yes.
Don't be a stranger. We're going to do it. Jay William, as always, thank you for participating.
No, Dan, no. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Everyone else, you're also welcome. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.